Happy New Year. Welcome to the Root of All Success. I'm your host, the Real Jason Duncan, and today is January the 7th, 2025. That's the release day. It's not the day I'm recording this, but it is the release day. And this is, as I said, episode number 271. So first of all, like I said, Happy New Year. I hope that your 2025, the first 7 days, is off to an amazing start. You know, 24 is over. It's behind us. It's gone. 25 is right here staring us down. We're staring down the barrel of another year. And I don't know about you, but I'm really excited about it. 25 is going to be a big year. I turned 50 this year. I don't feel 50. And for those of you who meet me in person and ask how old I am, and I say that, and you say, wow, you don't look old enough. Thank you. Thank you. That makes me feel really good. I feel like I'm 30 in my body. Like mentally, I feel 30. Physically, I feel 30. But man, my son will be 25 this year. Golly, my daughter will be 23. It's just, my wife and I are going to celebrate 30 years of marriage this year. I don't feel old enough to have known anybody for 30 years, much less be married to somebody for 30 years. So 25 is a big one. It's a big, big year. A lot of exciting things are going to be happening this year. Now, if you listen to last episode, you know that what I talked about in the final episode of 2024, I did another one of these solo episodes. It was special because normally this is an interview show, but I talked about the power of focus and decision and how those two principles shaped my 2024 and turned a challenging year into one of growth and success. And now, if you haven't caught that episode, just go back and give it a listen. If you haven't subscribed, listen, I'm on Spotify, I'm on Apple Podcasts, I'm on YouTube, and any other podcast player. Those are the biggest ones. Do me a favor, as a New Year gift to me, just take a minute this afternoon when you finish this episode, going over to each of those platforms, subscribe. That'd be great. And then second is leave a review, and especially if it's 5-star. I mean, I want you to leave an honest review, but I've got somebody on Spotify evidently left me a less than a 5-star review, and my Spotify ratings were lower than I expected, but I can't see them. Spotify doesn't let me see those ratings. All it says is what the total stars are. So it'd be great if you could go do that. I would really appreciate that. I feel like that whoever left that is just somebody's mad at me for something. I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I did, but like I said, if you haven't caught the last episode, make sure you go back and catch that because it'll set the stage for what we're going to talk about today. So I want to talk about something I call the January 1st trap. The January 1st trap. You know, it's that time of year when everyone's talking about New Year's resolutions, and that's what we do, right? And I don't have a problem with them in general. I mean, there are some things I resolve to do differently. In the new year. One of the things I want to resolve to do differently this year, just personally, is I want to stop scrolling. You know what I mean? I want to stop scrolling on Instagram and on YouTube Shorts, and because I think very little good comes from that. I think there's some good. I've learned a lot of cool things, connected a lot of cool people, and maybe you found me because you scrolled. But man, just sitting and wasting time doing that, I got to stop doing that. So I think when we resolve to do things different or to do things better or to stop doing things, I think that's not bad. But let me ask you this. How often have you set a resolution only to forget about it by February? Well, I mean, if you're like most people, the answer is probably more times than you'd like to admit. Well, the truth is that resolutions fail because they're based on wishful thinking rather than intentional design. There's no intentionality behind it. It's like saying, well, I'm going to start going to the gym every day, but then not creating a plan for when, how, or why you'll stick to it. Not that I'm going to call anybody out specifically, but I know people personally who donate lots of money to Planet Fitness every month and never go. That's why I don't really believe in setting resolutions, at least not in the way that most people do it. Instead and especially as a business coach, because that's what I am. I work with business owners all over the country. I run a mastermind called the Exeter Club, and I want my clients to understand the power of focusing on trigger events to design their business and life rather than just resolutions or goals. Now, what you might say, well, what's a trigger event? Well, we've heard lots about being triggered since 2020. The whole world went nuts. This new word trigger came up. Well, we're triggered over. Listen, that's not what I'm talking about. But a trigger event is a significant milestone or moment that prompts action. That's what I'm talking about. And Trigger events are rooted in purpose and intention. For example, instead of saying something like, well, I want to grow my business, you might decide, by my birthday this year, I will implement systems to increase revenue by 30% so I can take more time off with my family. See the difference? A trigger event can help you make a goal that's tied to something meaningful, something actionable. Another thing I think is interesting about trigger events and goal setting is that, you know, I think psychologically we're okay with breaking goals or not reaching goals. And by breaking, I don't mean reaching and going beyond. I mean like setting it and then never attempting it. And I think we are because we talk about goal setting so much. I think another thing that we could probably do better is just make, instead of goals, have promises. Like I promise myself that I'm going to go to the gym every day. I promise myself that I'm going to save 10% of every paycheck. I promise myself that I'm going to take my wife on a date once a month rather than I have a goal to do it. Because psychologically, we sometimes find ourselves breaking goals. And what I mean by that, again, is not achieving it, not pursuing it, because it's just a goal. If I don't hit it, no big deal. But if you make a promise to yourself, you don't want to be a liar. You know, in the last episode, looking back at 2024, it made me really think about a lot of the crap I went through. And I discovered something fascinating about myself. And I talked about that in the last episode, but also discovered something fascinating about the most successful entrepreneurs that I've worked with as a business coach for these 5 or 6 years. I've been professionally doing it. I've been doing it longer than that. But the transformations of the people that I'm working with didn't start on January 1st. You know, there's something special about that date. It makes us think differently. But the big transformations that I see in my clients don't happen on January 1st. In fact, their breakthroughs often happen in random months like March or August or October. Well, why? It's because they responded to trigger events, not just the calendar. I'll give you an example or two. You know, one client's trigger was that he realized he had answered 10 emails during his daughter's soccer game. And that moment of clarity saying, you know what? I can't do this anymore. And that prompted him to implement delegation systems that he'd been procrastinating on for years. Another client's trigger event was noticing how predictable his week had become, signaling, okay, it's time to scale. I can't keep doing this over. It's not Groundhog Day over and over and over again. And these moments of clarity led to real change, not because of a date, but because of the action they inspired. And that brings me to what I want to talk about. It's why traditional New Year planning fails. This idea of new year, new me, that mindset holds you back because it treats transformation as a calendar event rather than a process. And that's not what transformation is. It's not a calendar event. This new year, new me attitude creates pressure to achieve everything at once instead of building sustainable systems. And this new year, new me attitude ignores the real-time signals that your business sends you every single day. Listen, I think I've started at my last count, I think it's 15 companies. I've exited, I think 5 or 6. And what I've learned, if nothing else, in the failures and the successes, listen, I've been at the top making millions of dollars. Things are going great. And I've been at the bottom almost bankrupt. And I've been everywhere in between. But what I do know is that your business, no matter what kind of business it is sending you signals. There is a two-way communication. You're telling the business what to do, but it's also speaking back. And this idea of just setting a New Year's resolution at the beginning of the year ignores the fact that your business is talking to you. Let me share another example. I had a client who had set the same resolution 3 years in a row, and it was delegate more. And it wasn't until he noticed how often he was missing family moments because of work emails that he took action. And that moment that he realized that wasn't tied to January 1st, New Year's resolution. It was tied to what like I said, I call a trigger event, a moment that forces clarity and inspires action. Now, this idea of a trigger system is a much better way to plan. And I think that instead of New Year's resolutions, and I know we're 7 days into the year at this point by the time you're hearing this, or maybe later, depending on when you're hearing this. But instead of New Year's resolutions, I'm going to let you off the hook a little bit. I want to challenge you to embrace the trigger system this year. I want you to start paying attention to the moments that frustrate you, that slow you down, or feel like missed opportunities. These are your triggers, and they're telling you exactly where to focus your energy. And I'm going to give you how to do this in just a second, but I want to give you another example from my own life. Last year in 2024, as I talked about in the last episode, the first 3 months of the year started off in hell. It was absolute hell. And I wrote a series of my newsletters about that hell and the lessons I've learned. I did a few podcasts where I alluded to it, although I didn't go into a great detail. And that's not the point of today either. But, coming out of those 3 months at the beginning of the year of hell, things started to pick up, but I still wasn't totally focused. And I talked about in last week's episode, this power of focus, and how in July, I made a focus and I made a decision that pushed me in the right direction, ultimately tripling the membership in my mastermind in just 6 months. But what I didn't talk about is the trigger event that led to that. You want me to tell you what it was? So we had just come back from our Exeter Club annual retreat, and we did it in Mexico this year, and it was fantastic. Although the weather sucked, it rained the whole time, but we had a great time in spite of that. And I had a client who had been working with me one-on-one for a year, and it was coming up on his renewal. And from a financial standpoint, my one-on-one clients, I make more money per.
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
I finally got it. It's the brand new Relay credit card. So check it out. I'm going to do a little unboxing for you so you can check this out. So here we go. Nice little case, kind of like the American Express. They're not playing. They're doing it right. Oh, look at this. There's a quote right inside. It says, "Success is having to worry about every damn thing in the world except money." Johnny Cash. That's pretty good. I've not heard that one. Oh, this is nice. A little thing on the back, up to 1.5% cash back, no annual fees or interest, 30-day billing cycle. And there it is. It's the Relay credit card. It's a Visa. So I'm not going to show you my number, but there it is. Look at that. Boom. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/relay.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
Hour of time spent doing that than anything else, as you might imagine. My one-on-one clients pay me $10,000 a month to work with them to do things. Plus they get membership in the mastermind, and they're VIPs, and I spend a lot of time with them, and I go see them 4 times a year. It's a really great program. And he was coming up on the end of his year, and I was anticipating a renewal, and he didn't renew. And it wasn't because it wasn't working. It was because from a financial standpoint, there were other things that needed to happen more than that at that moment. And as much as I didn't want to hear that, it was right. It was the right thing to do. Because listen, sometimes you don't need to work one-on-one with a coach to get where you want to go. And listen, I'm a business coach telling you that. So I hope you know I'm telling the truth. But at the moment, it was like a panic. Not because I had to have that money, but because that money made a big difference in the monthly budget. I mean, losing $10,000 a month in income, that's a big deal, right? Now, I'm blessed to know that I had a lot of other income coming in, a lot of stuff. So it didn't really change a lot, but it did make it was a trigger event for me. And you know what that trigger event did? It said that I am no longer going to be doing the one-on-one coaching. Now, I didn't decide that immediately, but it was a decision that I made because I said, you know what? I don't ever want any one client to have that much sway over my financial well-being as a business owner. And this is not a slam against him or any part of what he and I work together with. This is on me. This is my business model problem. Now, I still have other clients I still work one-on-one with, and I love them. I love all my one-on-one clients because they are the VIPs. I do give them more time and energy than anybody else I work with. And as long as the one-on-one clients that I'm working with now want to continue to work with me, I'm planning on continue to do it. But you know what? I took it all off my website. It's not there anymore. If you wanted to hire me one-on-one, you can't hire it for that price. I mean, listen, if you want to pay me $250,000, $500,000, that's fine. We'll talk about it, but that's not what I'm about anymore. I'm about growing this mastermind because I believe that long-term, this mastermind not only is scalable for me as a business owner, but I think it provides higher impact and value to the people that I coach, that I interact with. Because now I've got 5 other coaches in my program: investment bankers, wealth managers, financial experts, mindset experts, and legal experts that are serving my clients. Had I been focused just on serving one-on-one clients, I would never have been able to find those 5 guys to come into my program and serve my clients with me, alongside me. That was a trigger event for me, for my client to say, you know what, I'm not going to renew. Now, he did stay in the mastermind, and he's still getting tremendous benefit and adding tremendous benefit to the club. And for that, I'm very, very grateful. But that event changed everything. If I had waited till January 1st to say, you know what am I going to do different this year? You know what I'm not going to do? I'm going to stop promoting that I coach one-on-one. I'm going to stop offering a $10,000 monthly service. I would not have made that decision. Certainly would have been more difficult to stick to, but I did it after a trigger system. So how do you do this? How do you know where to focus your energy? Well, first of all, it starts with paying attention. I want to encourage you to begin a trigger journal this year. And I want you to write down every moment of frustration, every moment of inefficiency, every moment of repetition that you notice in your day-to-day business life. And as you write that down, I want you, for each trigger, define a specific action step. For example, if you're repeatedly scheduling meetings manually, it might be time to invest in automation tools. Listen, I love Calendly. That might be something you should look into. And I want you to set some clear thresholds. How many times does something need to happen before you act? And create rules for yourself to respond decisively. And if you treat your business like a living organism, constantly responding to its needs, you're going to create a system that evolves and grows naturally, and it doesn't take January 1st to make a big change. Now, one of the things that I was able to do over the past 6 months as I made this really big shift in my focus and my energy to growing the Exeter Club to be the #1 mastermind on the planet for entrepreneurs. That's what I want to build. And I'm not chasing other business opportunities. I'm not chasing one-on-one client opportunities. Listen, I'm building the Exeter Club into be the preeminent mastermind for entrepreneurs. And in so doing, I've created the XOS method, which stands for Exeter Operating System. It's a 7-step method and process that takes clients through how to get to the ultimate exit out of your business. But one of the other things I've created that was kind of a surprise that happened almost by accident over the past month of my life is that as I'm analyzing everything, I looked at the triggers that have been happening and I saw I need a framework to help people set goals as a business owner. How do they set up an exit plan? And I came up with something called the X Plan framework. So building on this idea of triggers, and I'm going to talk about that here just a second, what the X Plan framework is. Building on this idea of triggers, I want to talk about how you can turn those triggers into a structured action plan. And that's where this X Plan framework comes in. And this is a system that I'm now using with the Exeter Club members to help them as entrepreneurs map out their journey to freedom and success. Now, whether you want to sell your business or you want to step away from daily operations, which is what I call exit without exiting. So for those of you watching this on YouTube, you see there's a copy of my book, Exit Without Exiting. Like whether you want to do that or totally sell it, we have investment bankers and exit M&A attorneys to help you do that in the club. Whichever one you want to do, the X Plan framework ensures you're going to have a clear, actionable path. So here's how this works. Each letter in the X Plan stands for something. So X stands for examine. If you're going to set goals like we do at the beginning of the year, I want you to be looking for triggers to help you set better goals. And if you're looking to exit your business, you need to come up with some sort of framework to make good decisions. It starts with examine. Define your ultimate goal. Do you want to sell it? If so, by when? Or do you want to remain the owner but step away from daily operations? If so, how many hours a week do you want to work and by what date? You got to get specific about your destination because that is where every plan starts. That's like the Cheshire Cat and Alice in the Wonderland. Alice asked the cat, which way do I go? He said, well, where do you want to go? She says, well, I don't really much care. He goes, well, it doesn't really matter where you go. That's how so many entrepreneurs are operating their business. They got their exit plan is like, well, whatever, whoever gives me the most money. Well, that's not a plan. So the first thing about the X Plan framework is examine. Define your ultimate goal. What do you want to do? You want to sell it or do you want to remain owner and not work in it? Exit without exiting. Like my t-shirt says, own it, don't run it. How about P in plan? X Plan. So P stands for prioritize. Once you have your goal defined, identify your top strategic goals based on your current situation and expert insights. Now, this might take a coach. This might take a consultant. This might take somebody to come, a mentor, to help you focus on financial milestones or team development or operational systems or personal growth areas. But you got to prioritize what are those strategic goals in each of those areas. All right, so X Plan. X is examine. P is prioritize. L is leverage. You need to determine the key roles, the resources, or systems that you need to achieve your goals. Because success, it doesn't happen in isolation. If you've listened to this podcast and heard me interview almost 300 entrepreneurs about their path to success, you know it doesn't happen in isolation. You have to lean into your team. You got to lean into your tools. You got to lean into your network, lean into your mentors, coaches, advisors. Leverage, X-Plan, examine, prioritize, leverage. Now, A stands for activate. Now, here's where you create the timeline for immediate steps. Action. You got to take action. The magic is in the action. What actions can you take in the next 30, 60, and 90 days to build momentum? We're here at the beginning of January 2025. What can you do in January, February, March to build momentum? And those short-term actions are going to drive long-term results. You know, you can achieve more than you think you can achieve by the end of this month, by the end of this quarter, by the end of this year, if you just put an X-Plan framework into place. Examine, prioritize, leverage, and activate. And then the N is navigate. And as you navigate this, as you start off, you're en route. You need to set checkpoints and metrics to track your progress. You can regularly evaluate your milestones and adjust as whenever you need to stay on course, because things change. I remember when I started the Exeter Club, we had our first meeting in January 2022. And I happened to be out of town. I was at a hotel in Destin, Florida, and I was there speaking at an event, and I had to have my very first ever Exeter Club Zoom meeting from the hotel room. And believe it or not, it was a 3-hour meeting. We were meeting once a month. I think we had 6 minutes.
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
As an entrepreneur running multiple businesses, effective communication is critical for me. I've tried all kinds of outreach tools over the years, but none have compared to Dubb when it comes to driving real results, and that's DUBB. I was one of Dubb's first users. I think it was like 7 years ago when they first launched, and I've been a loyal customer ever since. Dubb has completely transformed my prospecting, my client communication strategy, and here's why. Dubb makes it simple to record personal video messages and share them across email, SMS, social media, and more. And this brings back the face-to-face connection that's missing from most digital outreach. And what happens is my prospects instantly feel more engaged when they can put my face to my name. I end up building a stronger relationship faster by incorporating these video messaging into my workflow. Dubb also provides tracking and analytics so I can see exactly who engages with my videos and how they respond to them. Their automation and their CRM features help me nurture leads and close more deals. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, right, as entrepreneurs. So after using Dubb for years, I absolutely can't recommend them enough. I mean, Ruben, those guys over there are phenomenal. I love Darius. They're all great guys. It's become an invaluable tool that I depend upon to run my businesses efficiently. And if you want to boost your outreach and see amazing results like I have, head over to therealjasonduncan.com/Dubb. That's DUBB, and you can try it completely for free. No credit card required. You get the first 50% off your first 2 months, by the way, if you use my link. You need to take your prospecting to the next level with video messaging from Dubb. They're my go-to sales communication platform for nearly 7 years and counting. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dubb. Try it for free, no credit card required, and you'll get 50% off your first 2 months as well.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
Members at the time, and to their credit, all 6 guys showed up and stayed all 3 hours, and we had a break in the middle to use the bathroom, get a cup of coffee or whatever. And I think we did that 2 or 3 months in a row. And then everybody was like, and I noticed it too, because I'm a perceptive guy. And I was like, I think 3 hours is probably not the best way to do this. And so we changed it to 2 90-minute meetings per month. Still 3 hours, but it's, spread out. And that's what we've kept this whole time. So when you're navigating your plan, examine, prioritize, leverage, activate, and navigate. That's what X-Plan stands for. When you're navigating, you're going to make some pivots. I made a pivot. Hey, okay, we're not going to meet 3 hours a month. That's dumb. Let's do something different. And then some of the things that I put into place and actually put on the website about what the Exeter Club, ultimately didn't resonate with anybody but me. So I had to get rid of it. So navigating your plan allows you to evaluate those milestones and adjust. Last year in 2024, I worked with a member of the Exeter Club who wanted to step back from the daily grind. And using this X Plan framework, we helped him define his goal of working just 10 hours a week. That's what he wanted by the end of the year. And so what we had to do for that is prioritize leadership development. We had to leverage systems for efficiency. We had to activate a 90-day hiring plan. And then we had to navigate that with regular check-ins. X Plan, right? Examine, prioritize, leverage, activate, navigate. And by December, not only did his goal, but his business grew and he worked less. And that's the power of clarity and action. Now, just like with anything else, there's going to be some pitfalls that you're going to have to navigate. You're going to have to avoid. This X Plan framework is simple, but there are a few pitfalls you need to watch out for. First of all is vague goals. When you're doing your examine, you need to be very specific on the X plan, the X part of that plan. Be very specific about what success looks like. Ambiguity leads to inaction. You've got to be specific. Another pitfall to watch out for is lack of accountability. You got to build in regular check-ins with a coach or a mentor to stay on track. You need a business coach. I think that if you're starting a business in 2025 or you're running a business in 2025, you have to have a business coach and a bookkeeper before you do anything else. That it's worth the expense and the investment, because if you're running an ice cream shop and you don't buy a freezer, you're not going to be in business very long. I think a business coach and a bookkeeper are as essential to an ice cream shop as a freezer is. And you need to build in those regular check-ins with your coach, with your mentor. Now, as I said at the top here, I'm not doing one-on-one coaching. I'm not offering that as a service moving forward, except for people that want to pay, a lot of money for it. That's fine, but I'm not offering that. But what I would say is, the mastermind that I run provides weekly check-ins. Every Tuesday, we offer a 1:00 open office hour call with me or one of my coaches. And there's a way to check in, stay on track. Twice a month, we meet as an entire group, check-ins. Twice a year, we meet for a workshop here in Nashville. Those are opportunities to do check-ins. Once a year, we go on a retreat somewhere and your spouse can come with you. Those are opportunities to do check-in. Lack of accountability is a big pitfall if you don't watch out for it. And then another common pitfall following this X plan is overcomplicating the plan. The reality is those of us that like details, we can overcomplicate things, but really we just need to stick to one or two actionable steps at a time to avoid overwhelm. One of my favorite Proverbs is Proverbs 16:3. It says, commit to the Lord whatever you do, and he will establish your plans. So I would say, I'm going to encourage you, commit to God, commit to Jesus, what you're doing, and see what he does to help you establish your plans this year for 2025. For me, as you know, faith has always been a cornerstone of my decision-making, and the X Plan framework isn't just a strategy. It's about aligning my actions with my values and my purpose. And my faith reminds me to trust the process, even when the path forward isn't clear. Last year at the end of not last year, but in 2023, the end of 23, the beginning of 24, wow, I felt stuck. I felt afraid. I didn't know what was going to happen. I ultimately lost a business, lost friends. I lost a lot, but I gained perspective. I gained valuable wisdom that I couldn't have gotten through a textbook or anybody else. I had to go through it. And my faith reminds me to trust that process, even when the path forward isn't clear. And so if you're feeling stuck, I encourage you to lean into prayer, lean into scripture, lean into meditation to gain clarity. For me, meditating daily on Psalm 23, that has been probably the most cathartic thing I've gone through this past year. 24 helped me with that. Now, if any of this resonates with you and you're ready to take your life and your business to the next level as a listener to the Root of All Success, I'm going to invite you to join the Exeter Club. Again, I don't normally do pitches for my business as part of the normal process on this podcast. But I want to today, really, as you begin 25, I want you to think about it. Think about joining. This is not just a mastermind. It's a community of entrepreneurs that are all committed to freedom, to legacy, and to success. And as a member, you get to gain the tools and the support and implement the strategies like the X Plan framework, and to make your 25 the best year yet. Maybe this is the year you sell the business. Maybe this is the year that you exit without exiting. Maybe this is the year that things change. If you want to learn more about that, go to theexeterclub.com. That's theexeterclub.com. It's EXITER. Let's make this a year that you take control of your business and your life. Now, look, in order to qualify for membership, you got to be doing at least $3 million a year in revenue, or have at least $300K in bottom line profit, regardless of the top line revenue. And the reason for that is there's going to be certain things that we are going to teach you and help you do that are requiring investments. And so if you're barely making it or you're under 3 in revenue, it's going to be difficult to make those investments. You still have building to do before you can do what we teach. And if you need help with that, I've got coaches that I can recommend for you. But as we close this episode, the first episode of 2025, man, I'm going to hit my 300th episode very soon. As we close, let me leave you with this thought. Success isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters most. So I want to encourage you to focus on what truly matters, to make decisions that align with your values. And remember, you don't have to do it alone. All right, so next week on the show, I'm going to be interviewing a very successful entrepreneur. I'm going to be talking about their journey to success. I don't want you to miss that. So make sure you subscribe. If you're on YouTube, hit that bell icon so you're notified when that episode drops. But as always, I am the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.